Good evening, everyone. My name is Chun, and welcome to our webinar on how to dress like someone that matters. Now, we hope you're having a great day, and we thank you for joining us on this very special event, the 7th MyPSA National Pharmacy Debate Competition 2021. Now, before we go into this webinar, as you can see here, I'm dressed in quite a dapper manner today, but is this really appropriate for office wear? Is this really appropriate for all the situations that requires a jacket? Fear not, because Mr. Liu Ho King will be answering this question for us. And today, he is here, and he is not just any tailor. He is one of the representatives for the Malaysian Golden Finger. He's better known as a bespoke tailor, an image consultant, and a menswear specialist. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Liu Ho King.
It's a pretty warm welcome. Right. Okay. So good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is well. So I'm here today to talk to you about dressing professionally, in, well, a professional setting. Okay. So let me just bring up my screen here. A second. The screen sharing is disabled for now, so perhaps someone could help with that.
Please give us a moment, Mr. Liu. My team is working on that. Okay, my apologies. All right, Mr. Liu, would you mind trying again?
Right, here we are. Okay, now for a quick introduction, as everything starts with. Here we can see three different suits. Okay, three different people dressed in three different ways. Can you guys tell me which you would be more inclined to trust in a professional setting? A, B, or C? Perhaps you guys can just type it in the chat so that we have an idea of where everyone is in terms of their idea of professionalism. Quite a lot of A's and B's. The answer might be surprising to some of you. Okay, I think we've pretty much gauged the reactions of everyone here and what they think would be suitable in a professional setting. Now, I would have to say that the correct answer is B. And why is that? Obviously, no one chose C because C looks pretty loose, it looks pretty sloppy. But why are a lot of people inclined to choose A then? Now, this I have to highlight here. Now, the reason that A is as professional is because I would say it's way too tight, as evident by this X shape over here. You can see it's way too tight, and you have to pay attention as well to how high the button is here. It's showing a shirt triangle right here, and you really don't want that. It should have a seam. It should be seamless with your trousers and not show a shirt triangle like that. There are actually quite a lot of problems here, all the way down to the flashy belt, all the way down to a chunky watch, not showing shirt cuffs, so on and so forth. While for B, this is what we want, just a very slight waist suppression over here, not too tight, not too loose. Okay, you can see there's a very nice silhouette. There's no wrinkling around the shoulders as in A. It's just a smooth line down. Just smooth silhouette is what you want. I'm not sure I need to highlight exactly what is wrong with C. As you can tell, it's just way too much excess cloth. There's too much going on here. The collar is out, so on and so forth. All of this is quite simple to see until you are the one actually wearing it. Because it's easy to judge others, but can you judge yourself? All right, so now let's get into the next slide. Okay, and this is talking about how you should dress during casual times. Some of you might know who this is, okay? But regardless, which of these outfits give you more faith in the way that someone important to you would work, your doctor or your lawyer? Could you also put in chat A or B? All right, I'm seeing everyone is choosing B here, thank goodness. Unless if you know who this is, no, I don't think anyone would choose A. We have one person choosing A. Okay, well, I'm sure as you know, the answer is B. How you dress during your day off or during leisure time is actually quite important because it shows a side of who you are. It tells people that you act the same way outside as you do inside. For example, let's say you're a perfectionist at work, you request the highest standard from your staff. You require the highest standard from your staff, but if you go out dressed like A, what does that really say about you? You preach about so many high standards, you preach about this, preach about that, and then when you go out, you set such a low standard for yourself. So this you guys have to pay attention to. Dressing is very important. You never know who you're going to meet. Perhaps you meet your boss, a potential client, so on and so forth. So do keep that in mind. Now let's move on to the next slide. Dressing for the occasion and office, that's good. Okay. Just a bit of background here. This is actually the picture on the left. It's actually an actual article. Someone actually did dress like this to run. This is in a stock photo. He says it gives him confidence. Good on him, I guess, but it's really not very appropriate, yeah? And I don't think I need to explain this photo right here. Now, this is very true in the sense that you can dress professionally, but if your office doesn't have that culture, or perhaps it's just not suitable for you to dress that way, then, well, it's very simple. Don't. You're not going to wear a suit to a beach retreat. Let's say if you work at a more back-breaking job, you're going to be sweating a lot. Generally, it requires sport gear. If you dress up properly, you're just going to look like you're trying too hard, and perhaps even distance yourself from your colleagues and perhaps even your boss. So this is a very important point to bring up, because while I can teach you about general style rules, your office ultimately and your actual real life condition dictate how you should dress, okay? Now, let's move into color. This is a touchy subject for a lot of people, and I'm just going to go through generalities here because I understand there are a lot of different skin tones, there are a lot of skin undertones, so on and so forth. So ultimately, you've got to find what works for you best, okay? And now this is a color wheel. Okay, here under the highlight, so how to use a color wheel is, if the colors are next to each other, they match. If they're opposite, like this and this, they clash. But one thing to keep in mind is that they match artistically. Whether or not they match in terms of your wardrobe, how you're supposed to dress, they might make you look weird. Okay, as an example, okay, let's say if you go out wearing this color and this color together. I would have to say a lot of people are going to be staring at you, but it's just weird. So this is a very, very general guide to how colors in general work, but not to how you should dress. Okay? Because remember, all colors are equal. All right? And I understand that a lot of people aren't too sure about what to mix and match. I'll explain that in the later session, but just stick to darker colors, okay? For example, let's say if you have a dark gray shirt, you're not too sure if it's going to work with your black trousers. Well, it's definitely better than going with something bright. For example, like the example here, a neon gray jacket with a hot pink shirt. I don't know what you're going to look like. But let's say if you have a dark gray shirt and black trousers, it technically doesn't match. It shouldn't be matched that way, but it won't be as conspicuous as something bright, okay? So what would be the general office colors then? Let's take a look. These would be basic colors for shirts. So I'm sure you've seen all of these colors when you go into a supermarket or perhaps a department store, so on and so forth. There's the white one, the blue one, and a light pink. Definitely not hot pink, okay? Or perhaps any neon colors. No, none of that's suitable. Okay, and one thing to keep in mind, one thing you'll notice here is that there aren't a lot of so-called special details with these shirts. You can see they're quite classic, they're plain, they're simple, they're just what you need for the office, yeah? There's no extra piping around the collars. I've seen that quite a lot. I don't understand where this trend is coming from. There are some with piping running down the middle here. That would be a fashion statement and less of a less suitable for a professional setting. Now, these are basic colors for trousers and skirts. Okay, I'm sure all of you have perhaps, well, probably one black trouser or skirt in your wardrobe for office wear, but I'm here to tell you that it's not, you're not restricted to just black. Okay, you've got mid-gray, you've got mid-gray here, you've got charcoal, you've got navy blue, but to me, in terms of versatility, I would say to go with the charcoal here. It's not quite as boring as black, and you do stand out just enough, just a little bit. Okay, but of course, as I said, pay attention to your office, and if everyone is wearing black, make sure it's okay for you to wear other colors before you experiment. Okay, and here we go with basic jacket colors, and here we've got a dark charcoal gray, a navy blue suit, and this is a jet black suit. And I would have to say if you only had to choose one, I would say go with a navy blue jacket. Charcoal gray might not work with all colors, and it might look weird in some combinations. Black is honestly not your friend. Only do it if your job requires to. If they have a very, very strict black jacket only dress code, well, then your hands are pretty much tied. Otherwise than that, definitely go for navy blue. There's a reason why blazers are traditionally blue in color. They really do go very, very well. So do pay attention to that. Okay. Now, let's have a quick talk about texture and formality. Which do you think is more formal, A or B? Can you just put in the chat, please? Okay, so far as everyone's choosing A. Oh, we pretty much got the right idea. Okay, now the answer is correct. It's A. Why? It's because, now, the general rule of textures is that the finer the fabric is, the more formal it is. The opposite also holds true in that the coarser it is, the more casual it is. That's why you see materials like denim, it's generally reserved for quite casual events, okay? And you can see here that this is actually quite a coarse texture. Yeah, you've got quite a lot of texture here, a lot of these small bits here and there. It looks quite beautiful, but it's just not that suitable, or yeah, I wouldn't say it's suitable for formal events. Well, this It's just a nice sheen all around, but it's not too shiny, which I'll bring up later. Now, there's a certain limit to the fineness and formality because silk is a very good example. I'm sure that a lot of women have perhaps a silk shirt, okay, and or a crepe sort of texture on their shirt, and that's fine for office wear. Not so for men. There are quite a lot more hard and fast rules for men than they are for women. So do pay attention. So, oops, sorry. For example, a silk shirt or a suit, it sounds fancy, but it's really not suitable. So remember, just only on your accessories. For example, as you can see, Mr. Chan is wearing a silk tie and a silk pocket square. I think that's good enough. That it should only be limited to that. Okay. Now, the second thing is the matching of textures. Okay. If you have a formal outfit or formal colors, but the textures are informal, it breaks the formality of the whole outfit. This is a very good example right here. Okay, a silk tie, a fine blue shirt, something beautiful, something made just for you. It fits right. Everything is just perfect, except you wore a pair of Levi's with it. It's denim, and now you just look weird. You look professional up here, smooth. Okay, it's fine fabrics. Of course, it's going to look smooth. It's going to look professional. But then down there, you're wearing something pretty rough. It's pretty rugged. You're breaking the whole image of things, and it really looks too casual, weird, maybe even mismatched. Okay, so do pay attention to that. If you're going to get something, get them in roughly the same texture. Right, now we come to a very, very important part, and this is going to be the bulk, I would say, of the entire talk, which would be the fit. Okay, and quick disclaimers here, unless if you tailor-make your stuff, you never get the perfect fit. There'll always be something wrong. Even if you think something is perfect, perhaps you just can't see it, or you just don't know how to see it, okay? Because in my profession, I see quite a lot of people walking in wearing their best suits. They think it fits perfectly. They want something exactly like that. But as a professional tailor, I can tell there's quite a lot of problems over there. So if you take a look at the picture, if you Google, okay, off the rack versus bespoke, you can see the pictures over there. You can immediately tell there's quite a large difference between ready to wear and bespoke, okay? But that's, I would say, beside the topic here, because right now we're trying to teach you guys what to look for when you're going ready to wear. The tailor-made stuff will have to come later on. And if you do have a tailor, well, you're already one step ahead of others, okay? Now, when buying off the rack, understand that the clothes are generally made in the shape and size of the average person. Not everyone is average. I might look average, I look okay, but my left shoulder is slightly sloped, more sloped than my right shoulder. A lot of problems here and there. For example, I have, most people actually have very, very slight scoliosis. They are bent towards one side or the other and they don't know it. If you look in the mirror, you can see that perhaps one of your arms seems longer than the other. Perhaps on your back, okay, you have a slight hunch. Your posture is over erect, you're hunched over, so on and so forth. That's a lot that could go wrong in the body because, well, we're human, none of us are perfect. So, you know, we have to make do. But I would say this, knowing exactly what I wouldn't say deformities, that's a strong word, what your issues are in general with clothing goes a long way in helping you find clothes. For example, I know that I have a large chest. So if I go out, that's the first thing I look for. If the chest doesn't fit, I don't care about anything else. Okay, there's a lot of, but you just have to know your issue before you go out to buy ready to wear. Okay, now let's jump into the fit. Now, you can see over here that it's M1, F5. So this would be the ranking in terms of importance for male and female. So for the men, it's the most important thing to look for, priority number 1. And for the females, it's number 5, okay? The shirt collar. This is something that cannot be altered by a tailor. And this is also why I put it as number one, because part of the thing, some of the things you have to look for when you're going out to get a shirt or anything is tailorability, okay? Whether or not you can go tailor it and alter it to fit you, okay? If you can't alter it and you say, and your mother tell you, "Aya, nothing one lah, you just go to the tailor, they set it for you." That's not always the case. It really isn't, okay? So a collar is one of that. Oh, quick disclaimer though. Not all tailors do alterations. There are specific alteration tailors, and I would say go for those. Okay, and online, some people tell you that some things can be altered, but you have to remember that they perhaps are in totally different countries, so it does not always work that way. Okay, for example, everyone says that the shoulder cannot be altered. And that's true for all countries. And then some people say that the sleeve can be altered. Well, it depends from country to country and the skill set of the tailor. So do keep that in mind. If you do find a tailor do it for you, well, good for you, I guess. But as I said, this is a very general rule. Okay, now back to the fit. Shirt collar. As I would assume, more guys would be wearing a tie. This is what you're looking for, okay? Just so you're able to put on a tie. And this is why you see quite a lot of English manufacturers or European manufacturers, they put the collar size instead of the chest size, okay? Because it's actually quite important. Of course, you find shirts and all that doesn't follow this rule, but generally the collar is the most important thing to look for. For the women, you guys rarely wear ties, I would say. So just, I'll show you something else that's more important to you guys, but as long as the collar isn't showing too much or too revealing, it should be fine, okay? Next thing would be the shirt shoulder. And again, this is the second most important for the men, fourth for the females, for the women, okay? It should end around here. If it's up like this, you see if it's too high like this, you will see a sort of bulge coming out. You can see a sort of bulge coming out over here, and that's not what you want. I understand that there's this entire Instagram movement of, oh, you've got to get something that fits like a glove. You do understand when they say fit like a glove, they meant fit like a proper leather glove, not like, you know, it's kind of rubber gloves that go pop. No, not those type. Okay, so tightness isn't always a sign of, oh, this fits me. No, and if you're too loose, you look baggy. It's like you're wearing your dad's clothes. Okay, so just ending at your shoulder right here, that would be the sweet spot. And your shoulder is something that you cannot alter. There isn't enough allowance in the seams, and it's a very costly procedure, so I wouldn't recommend it at all. Okay, the third one for both, this is the middle of the ground here, this is the middle ground here, sleeve length. Okay, this would be just right. Okay, if it's up like this, you can fit your entire watch over here. Yeah, no, it's way too short. It's going to limit your mobility, because when you raise your hands up, perhaps Mr. Chan could demonstrate, when you reach forward, you will see that you see how much of his cuff is showing, and it's because whenever you reach forward, your skin stretches, but the shirt doesn't stretch, so you still have to leave enough space for the shirt to stretch. So if your sleeve length is too short like this, you're already restricting your movement. Fit is not just about looking good, it's about how you feel and mobility. Okay, and this is just way too long. You look way too sloppy. Sure, you might feel comfortable in it, but I mean, if you don't look good, Okay. Now, shirt torso fit. This is actually quite important for the women. Less so for men because it's quite alterable. But for women's clothes, okay, they have to take care of that they're not showing too much, it's not too form-fitting, and they have to make sure that it fits them in the chest. So if it looks like this, no. If it's too loose, you can still sort of consider it because it's still alterable. That's why I put it as the fifth one, okay? Now, the shirt bottom length. Remember, you can take in, you cannot let out. And even then, a lot of tailors they won't alter the shirt length for you, but luckily most of the time it's tucked into your trousers. So most of the time there's not an issue, yeah? So this would be just right, okay? This is a little bit too long, which would create bunching around the trouser area when you tuck it in, and will create a lot of creases around your trouser area. This is too short. Whenever you reach up, it'll just pull out of your tuck will come out. Okay, so like this, I would recommend. Now, this is for the skirts. This would be too tight. I'm sure you can tell by all the creases and all that. It's just pulling too tight. I understand there's spandex and all of that now in skirt materials, but you don't want something too form-fitting. You don't want something showing off too much. It looks, to put it nicely, unprofessional, yeah? Okay, and this would be too loose, where you can see this sort of very straight shape over here as compared to a slight vast shape, okay? And the best way to tell actually would be the vent. Because I understand with a pencil skirt, you guys have a slit at the back, okay? There's a slit. So if it's overlapping, like in this picture here, if it's overlapping with each other, that means it's too loose and the material is like melding together. That's a big no-no, okay? If it's being spread apart like this, you know there's just not enough space and it's going to limit your mobility. You might even rip a seam out. I'm not sure you want to rip a seam out, okay? If it falls flush like this, now that's what you're looking for, okay? And for length, it really depends on the office culture, okay? It really depends on the office culture. So your height also plays a factor. For example, if you're tall, okay, from the bottom of the knee to 1 inch to the top of the knee, it's fine. If you're shorter, okay, length from middle of the knee to 1.5 inch above the top of the knee should be fine. Okay, but as I said, office culture, it really depends. If everyone is quite conservative there, you might be considered unprofessional. Okay, so you just have to take a look at the office culture and do pay attention, yeah? Now for trousers, the seat. This is to say, okay, the middle part of the trousers where your in between your legs is what I would say. The middle part, the U shape that in between your legs. So if it's too short, okay, you will see all the material being pulled in like this, creating a very sort of bunched up fabric. So these sort of pulling lines, these sort of creases there, that's really not what you want. It looks quite unsightly. And of course, we have the one which is where it's too loose and you have this. So it looks like you have a full diaper. Just don't. Okay. So you want something like this, okay, where the seat is just right. I will say, however, this is quite important, but it's quite hard to find. So do pay attention to this. And a lot of people actually don't notice this because it's at their back. A lot of people don't pay attention to their back. They just look at the front and go, oh, it looks pretty good. While the back is all messed up and they never notice. Second thing would be the waist. The waist is alterable to an extent. You can see here that this is a one-piece waistband. Okay, this is the back pocket, by the way. And there's no seam over here. While there's no seam on this one, while for over here, you can see a seam connecting the entire trousers together. This is a lot more, how to say, this is a lot more alterable, but even then there's a limit, okay? There's a lot more alterable because they can just sew directly from the middle part. With this one, I would say it looks slightly better, a slightly cleaner fit, but it really doesn't give you any space for alterations, okay? And don't get something that you can, like pull up all the way to your shoulders and say, oh, I'll just get someone altered. No, there's a limit to everything. Okay, for example, you can see a pocket here. If you take in too much, you'll hit the pocket, and then you don't want that. You need to use your pockets. Okay, so do pay attention. It's alterable to an extent. Okay. Now, if you see over here in this picture, this is what you should be going for. Okay, this is what you should be going for, which is a slight nip in. A sort of silhouette, actually, you should be going for with a slight nip in and a slight flare out over here to a nice drape. In terms of tightness, okay, I've seen this trend nowadays where quite a lot of people wear something like this. The reason it's not professional, it's actually because of the way it shows your body. You have to remember that clothes in the more professional context are to hide imperfections and not to highlight your imperfections, okay? So you can see here that the lines here are actually quite forced. You have this sort of silhouette here, okay? Everything is just way too tight. You're showing off too much bum. Well, of course, they're gonna be imperfection. What you generally want to go for is something like this, just smooth draping line, just smooth lines all around, okay? But not to an extent where it's too loose, as long as you don't go for something like this. Now, this would be a trouser break. Something like this would be just fine, just lightly touching the top of the shoe. And so there's a slight drape over here. As compared to something like this is quite trendy nowadays. And this is just way too long. There's too much excess fabric. That's why you can see it's draped all the way down here. If you can now, this is this is actually quite people rarely talk about this, but rise is very important now. Okay. But in a professional setting, dressing within the chat, which do you prefer, one or the second one? Of course, some of you might like the third one, so I don't know. So just put it in the comments. Okay, so I would have to say that number 2 would be more immediately just by wearing a higher rise, his legs than a lower rise. Your body is quite a bit, looks disproportionately long. Understand that this is what most people are comfortable with, a measure of habit like this as well, like number 1 as well. With number 1, a lot of people are wearing it underneath their tummy because not everyone is skinny. Some of us might underneath the tummy, and it's actually quite uncomfortable. So with your shirts and everything, okay, while don't overdo it. I think this guy is overdoing it. If it reaches your chest, you've done something made for a jacket. There's a lot to go through with the jacket. There are a lot of issues, adjustments, but you do. So this is just now. First thing for both male and females, make sure this is important. Because if it's too small, you get these sort of lines where you're just being pulled higher, drape, and how the first photo that I've shown you at the none of you chose the third picture where you felt it was a bit sloppy, yeah? So do pay attention to that. Oh yeah, by the way, shoulder, definitely not it's just that it's expensive. Yeah, no, for your armor tailor. It's just, and at that price point where you can alter the shoulder, you might as well get a whole new jacket, to be honest. So it's really not worth it. Second thing would be the jacket length. This is also not alterable. And this is also the thing, my sources says that's alterable. It's really not. You mess up the entire balance of the jacket that way. Okay, so a general rule of thumb to the middle of your thumb here. Okay, but then of course, reach between like Generally, you want to show up to flash of color over there. It's actually quite nice. Okay. This, it limits your mobility in reaching for. It's a bad time for everyone. Just don't do it. Just don't do it, everyone. The midsection. Okay. So you've got just the proper closure over here. You see there's no triangle on this side. Okay. You see everything is just nice and almond, which is to say that it seems you know who you are. Some people have much wider backs. So pretty much every these sort of divots, because then it is ready to wear. So just go for something like this and you should be good to go. Okay. Now this is about the vent. I'll cover extra mobility. I'll cover them in the later section. Your butt, there's just an open gap over here. It's not appropriate and it really looks quite unsightly. It's too wide for the jacket. It happens a lot with females. That's why I say it's a very, how do I put this? It's a very a jacket that will fit perfectly because there's so many things that go wrong. And I haven't even covered all of them. So I'm not even halfway done and I'm just cutting this short for the sake of the talk. There's so much that could go wrong. And one thing, I've seen this quite a lot. You see that sometimes there's this thread over here, this thread where they put an X over here to sew it in place. Yeah, remove that when you wear your jacket. It's meant to, please remove this stitching over here, okay? Now, let's go to styles because so forth. If the style itself is not suitable, it's not suitable. Now, it's very different, okay? And can be developed through trial and style, okay? I'll tell you my style, but if you don't like it, are you going to something? I can give you the rules, but your style, your individual style, you find yourself. And if you don't like it, well, no matter what anyone says, you're going to feel really uncomfortable. It's going to affect the confidence at work. So just experiment, find something you're confident between style and fashion, you might ask. It's in your own manner and flair. That's why you can see, that's why you can say, see people saying, oh, he's doing things in his own style. You see? So fashion, on the other hand, is whatever is relevant. And it's, I would say, okay. And there, of course, is the overlap. That's why you can. That's why you see people using these two words interchangeably. But style is the only thing you can control and develop, while fashion keeps on moving forward. Okay, style is in fashion or not really depends on what everyone else thinks. Okay. Now, style could also mean a design or make in particular form, and this is the part that we're going to cover. Okay, because as is in this one over here, you can have your own style in clothing, but it's still professionally. My style in clothing could be just my jacket, but I might enjoy looking like a durian, but it's not accepted professionally. Okay, you can go be a fruit on your own time. Now, this is about trousers. Pleats or lack of. What are pleats? Pleats are, you can see this line over here. It's fabric that's folded in to give you more space when you sit down or when you move. Okay, so I'm sure you can, when you sit down, you see how much your thigh balloons out. Yeah, it's to take that into account. But nowadays, no pleats would be how most people dress. Myself, I enjoy single pleats. But then, of course, no pleats is what I would recommend for ready to wear, because there's a lot less that could go wrong. With pleats, you can see that these are really nice trousers here. These are really nice pleats because they don't open up. Generally, if you buy ready to wear, a lot of them open up and have these very baggy effect on your silhouette. So when in doubt, I just say go for no pleats. It's just a lot simpler. Okay, but if you're making bespoke, you could try going for single pleat or double pleat. You can see this is double pleat because there's two over here, by the way. Myself, I quite enjoy pleats, and I can't do without them nowadays. Now, these are the type of waistbands. I'm sure you've seen these ones before, where it's straight all the way down. There's a slight overlap over here and belt loops. So you can put a belt. Okay, you see there's this overlapping waistband over here. That's fine. It's not too bad. Okay, and there are some, I don't seem to have a picture here. I forgot to put it in, but there's some where you have side adjusters, and it gives a overall much cleaner look than having a belt. But I understand that quite a lot of people have this, I wouldn't say obsession, habit of wearing a belt and feel uncomfortable without it. So just go for this, whatever suits you. Just know that options like this and this would give you what would look way more professional. Okay. Now, these are the types of cuffs. What are cuffs? You can see that this one is clean, it's just straight all the way down, and this one, there's folded fabric over here. Now, so these are cuffs. And what cuffs are? That's a nasty circle. Never mind. Okay, so what are cuffs? Cuffs are is a fabric that's folded back up on itself to create extra fabric over here in this manner. So what this does is that if you have pleats, it weighs your trousers down to pull your pleats shut, and so that you have a nicer drape in your trousers, you have a nicer silhouette. While something like this, which you're more familiar with, I'm sure, it's a little bit more light and airy looking, I would say. So this is really up to personal preference. Myself, when I have pleats, I like to go for this one. Without pleats, I go for this one. Now, this is style of shirts, and these are the types of cuffs. There are actually quite a lot of cuffs over here. So just the top ones over here, you will find are the most common types, and all of these are completely fine in the office setting. Okay, if you want to go, but then you might want to go for something a bit more formal, and that's where the double cuffs come in. Okay, and with the double cuffs, you remember, you have to have your own cufflinks. You can't. I've seen some people buy these shirts with a double cuff and then call to ask me how to button them. There's no button. You have to put your own cufflinks in there. Okay, do pay attention to details like this. You don't want to buy a shirt for an interview and then tomorrow say to your mother, Mommy, cannot button one, where's the button? How can you help me? Your mother also cannot help you at the point. Okay, and this one is a little unconventional because of the amount of buttons there. But if that's your thing and if you're comfortable enough with it, your office allows it, well, then go for it, I guess. Now, these are the, I forgot to change this. This is actually the types of collars. Now, here you can familiarize yourself with what are the different parts of the collar and what to call them. So you can see here, this would be the classic collar, the standard collar, and the semi-spread. Okay. What are the differences, you might ask? The difference here would be the collar spread, which is the angle at which the collar is open. Okay. And the point length, you can see that the standard length is quite a bit longer than the classic one. Okay. This is the standard nowadays, but myself, I prefer a semi-spread. But then, of course, it's quite important to note what your face shape, okay, and how long your neck is, right? But I will have to say one thing: never go for these for collar that has a point length that just stops around here. There's this there are these tiny collars that only come from here to here. Yeah, that's way too small. That's just way too small. It makes your head look larger than it actually is. It makes your body look larger than it actually is. It looks like it just doesn't look good from a proportion standpoint, from the standpoint of a tailor. So I would say try and avoid that. You see a lot on social media, I would say. So do pay attention to that. Now, these are the types of cuffs. Sorry, give me a second. These are types of plackets. You can see it's a French placket. This is also a French placket, but it's hidden. Okay, this is a concealed placket. So you cannot see the buttons over here because it's hidden by a piece of cloth over here. Okay. Now there are many styles of skirts, and I really can't cover them all. So this would be a general guideline. These are the sort of skirts I would say that I feel are more appropriate for the office. So just a pencil skirt, okay, or perhaps a skirt like this. I think that's fine. Length, as I said, depends on office etiquette. And these are the type of lapels. Quite a lot of people cannot tell the difference between these lapels, so I'm just going to point them out. You can see that this extends out beyond the collar. So this is called a peak lapel, and this is called a notch lapel, where this is the collar. It doesn't extend out above it. No, it's cut short over here. Okay, hence why it's called a notch lapel, because there's a notch over here while this peaks out. Okay. I would say that the peak lapel is more formal, but this is by far the most popular choice. And these are different vent styles. I would say this is single vent, this is double vent by the sides. And in terms of mobility, I would say go for a double vent. Okay, but usually women jackets have no vent. So this is the one that is more prominent in women jackets, and rightfully so, because the hip measurements are a little hard to handle. So if you wear anything with vent, it's going to spread apart, it's going to look unsightly. And these are type of buttoning stances where you have, this is called double breasted jacket, and this is a single breasted jacket. Okay, this you might feel it's something your grandfather might wear. It's coming back in style, it really depends on the fit. But just go for this one and you never go wrong. This is the width of the lapel you should go for, which would be half of your shoulder point. Anything above that makes your head look too small. Anything below that, I see these tiny lapels. It makes you look larger than you actually are. Okay, so just please don't go for that. Okay. Now here, we are different types of chest pockets. A lot of people can't tell the difference here, but you can see that this is patch pocket. And if you pay attention, you see a row of stitching over here. A lot of people don't pay attention to this, that's why they never do notice it. But if you have this row of stitching over here, making it a patch that's literally patched on, it's quite a bit more casual than this, which is what they call just breast pocket actually. Okay. This particular one is curved, so it's called barqueta. So just go for this one and pay attention in an office environment, not go for a patch pocket. These are the types of lower pockets, and you can see over here that this is also a patch pocket. And in general, actually, patch pockets are quite a casual detail on your jacket, so don't go for those. And you can see here, this is a flat pocket. And on some jackets, you can see this small pocket over here, which you call ticket pocket. You can do with or without it, okay? And over here, you can see that this is what they call double welt pocket. It's just a very nice, clean look, okay? Now, here we come to shoes and accessories. A lot of people don't pay attention to these, to this sort of stuff. They say, yeah, no one noticed one lah. You think people really look at you, meh? Yeah, actually people do look at you, so do pay attention to these stuff. Okay, the devil is in the details. Now, these are suitable shoe types for the office, and these are pretty good colors. So, you can see that these are capital Oxfords. Okay, and Oxford would be where the lacing system is just like this. You get the multiple examples over here. It extends from inside the shoe. Everything else is pretty nice and hidden. It's all pretty clean. And there's a cap on it. Okay, and this is within a Derby family. Okay, it's a type of shoe where the lacing system is outside as opposed to inside. Okay, both these are okay, and the colors shown here are absolutely fine. So you just go for something like that. And for women, remember to not get anything too high. Okay, and these, well, actually, for colors, as I said, in women's fashion, there's quite a bit more leeway. So even dark brown would be fine, but I think that quite a lot of aesthetic go well with these sort of shoes. That's why I'm showing them out. Now these are unsuitable type for office shoe types for office, and this is not so much the shoe type. Okay, if you recognize where this one is from, you can just put in the comments. But it's not so much the shoe type as taking care of your shoes. Okay, this could be the proper shoe, but it's not taken care of. It just looks shabby. It's just not professional. Okay, so do take care of your shoes. You can have the best shoes in the world. It doesn't matter if you don't take care of it. Okay, you could have a Ferrari. If you take it off-roading and it's all muddy, come on. Okay, now we come to these. Don't square toe shoes. Don't. Okay, boots, no. Okay, and these have been quite popular. The Gucci loafers with a metal horse bit over here. Yeah, that's exactly what you shouldn't go for, which is the metal bits on the shoes. It's actually quite unprofessional, and at its very core, the loafer itself, the loafer like this one and this one, are actually quite casual shoes. It's in the name loafer, you're loafing around. So it's really not very suitable, okay? Now for women, now if you wear these to work, I commend you, but please take them off, okay? And now, something shiny like this is a big no-no, okay? You're not a disco ball. And something too high like this, also no. Because you have to remember, you might be walking quite a bit in those shoes. You want to be comfortable as you work, okay? And remember, don't show your toes. I know you just did manicure, but it's just not suitable for office wear, okay? Matching leather color. Can you guys put in the chat, what is the issue with, okay, this is number one, number two, which do you guys prefer? Can you just put in the chat, please? Okay, quite a lot of people choosing two. Okay, now you can see here that there's actually, in this entire outfit, okay, the belt is the only thing standing out because it's a different color from the shoe. And it just looks quite weird, I would say. It just looks quite weird because there's this mismatch of colors. Well, with this, you can see that it's the same color for the belt, same color for the shoes. Everything is melded together perfectly. So do try and match your leathers if possible. Okay, now, if we will go for, now this is unsuitable belt thickness and design. Understand that these are name brands, but just because they're expensive, just because they're name brands does not make them suitable. You've all seen these sort of belt designs, belt buckles. No, you should not have a pattern belt, okay? And you should not have large, fancy logos on them, okay? And the issue of this is that it's just way too thick. This is a casual belt. Yeah, so it's just way too thick. It looks somewhat like a worker's belt. So this is as thick as you can go. It's a little bit pushing it. But generally, I would hope for a 1 inch to 1.5 inch design. That would be the best. For women, you guys can go a little bit thinner, but Yeah, thinner is okay. Thinner is okay for you guys. Just all in good taste, yeah. And these are what we call bad ties. Okay, so something like this, you can see with such a thin tie how much of his body is showing. It's making him look larger than it actually is. I don't think he's. If you look at his body objectively, I don't think he's a very large person. But just because the tie looks like that, it makes him look a lot larger and plumper than he actually is. So avoid skinny ties. Not everything slim makes you look slim. Okay, that's very important to keep in mind. No fancy shining floral patterns like this, and none of this. I don't know what this is. Someone actually came in a store asking for this. And this stuff is, and this one isn't cheap. I don't know why you would wear this. Okay. And these, I would say, bad tie knots. Just go for conventional tie knots. I don't understand why you want to have a rose as your tie knot. Pine cone? I just don't. Okay, just stick with the conventional tie knots. Save this for never, maybe. Okay, and do learn how to tie a tie. You guys learned in high school, so please relearn it. There are lots of YouTube videos, and there's honestly, you think people can tell, people can tell, please. So these would be appropriate ties. You can see here that regimental stripes are fine. Micro patterns are okay. And the color, it really depends on your outfit and your office culture, as I said. Generally, colors from here to here should be fine. This one, it really depends on your office culture. I personally don't mind it. I think it's fine, but you do you, okay? And look at the tie width on this. It's perfectly reasonable and will make you look better. These are appropriate tie knots, and you can see in these pictures, you can actually take a screenshot and do a little bit of research on how to tie them. I would love to demonstrate, but we are running out of time, I see. Okay, you can see that there's a dimple over here, and that dimple is actually quite important. You can see this is forehand hand knot without the dimple. You can't really see the drape. It doesn't show the tie well enough. And these are unsuitable watches. You might say, wow, this one Panerai, well, how come not suitable one? Well, because it's a diverse watch. You can see there's a rubber strap over here and it's just too chunky in general. Daniel Wellington, it's because there's this cloth colored band, which is not suitable. And this one, I know there are multiple sizes. So if you get a smaller one, that's fine. I don't recommend a Daniel Wellington for multiple reasons. I believe there are better watches out there. But you do, I mean, if you enjoy the aesthetic, go for it. But do pay attention to the strap. And this is for women and men actually, no jewelry watches, no colorful watches, and no, this is way too large, I would say. Okay, so these would be suitable watches. The Jaeger LeCoultre, this is a Rolex. It's a diverse watch, but they've come to be a little bit more acceptable nowadays. This is a Cartier Tank, and this is a Grand Seiko. And it's time to stop dreaming, I think. So let's move on to more affordable options. Okay, so this is actually quite a common watch. I believe you guys have seen this one quite a lot. It's a classic. You can never go wrong with this. A normal Casio diver watch is fine. And this is actually one of my favorites, a cocktail watch, which you can see the leather strap here and all of that. It's actually quite thin. Seiko Presage. Okay, there are multiple colors for the back. You can go take a look. And let's rush on to cufflinks. These are unsuitable cufflinks because of the color. And it's too jewelry and it's too thick. Yeah, no, cufflinks are just meant to be there as a slight accent to your outfit. Okay, so these would be suitable cufflinks. You can see it's generally quite simple. And in terms of thickness, this is what they call French knot. It's fine in the context of cufflinks. And for pocket squares, now I'll just show you what's a pocket square real quick. This so-called thing is a pocket square. Some people get this idea from Mr. Bean where they fold up a tissue paper and literally use it as a pocket square. No, don't. Don't. Okay, now remember the pocket square, don't match your pocket square to your tie and your cufflinks. I've seen people selling these sets, generally not suitable. This is a pre-made pocket square and it's already sewn on. Yeah, you can definitely tell the difference. And this is a super shiny pocket square. If you go running at night, you can see that this is what people put at the back of their shirts so that they don't get knocked by cars. Okay. Now these are suitable pocket squares. White goes well with pretty much all the colors, so no worries there. You can see an example of white being used here with very slight accents. You see these slight accents, they're completely fine. And colors that match your tone with slight patterns, as long as it matches the tone of the jacket, it's fine, okay? It's unsuitable jewelry and accessories. Number one, not too much. Number two, not too colorful. Number three, yeah, just stick it to just one earring should be fine, and nothing this large, okay? And again, nothing too frilly, nothing too fluffy, and nothing too fancy, like in terms of the ring, you can see over here, it's nothing too fancy. It's way too fancy and it's way too thick. So these would be suitable jewelry and accessories, quite simple, quite nice, not too conspicuous. And you can see over here, this one has some jewels on it, but it's still fine because it's still rather inconspicuous in light of her hair. A simple band like this is quite beautiful. This is quite, I quite enjoy this, quite minimalistic. So in any case, in most cases actually, elegance lies in simplicity. So when in doubt, go for the simpler option. Now for a quick rundown. This is a cheat sheet. So take a picture. You can take a screenshot, and when you go shopping or whatever, you can just use this, okay? I'll give you guys 10 seconds. I think that's reasonable. Okay, if everyone's done, I'll move on to the next slide, okay? Do tell me in the chat if you haven't taken a screenshot. Okay, and that's all, folks. If anything, you guys have any questions, you can message me. You can email me at elishking@sayup.com.my. And I just want to give some closing statements. Now, a lot of people feel that Malaysia has this casual culture and you stand out too much when wearing that. Well, we do have a casual culture, but that doesn't mean you can't look professional, especially in your line of work, okay? And you might think that, oh, only the Westerner, only people in England, Italy, whatever, only they can dress that way, you know. Because only they got this sort of maker. No, I've taken great pains to ensure that all the shoemakers, the tie makers over here are predominantly Asian. Okay, they come from Japan, Yohei Fukuda, Chishio, Japan, even from Singapore, Banda Fine Clothing, and some from Malaysia. There's some Malaysian tailor. There's my work and some of Mr. Chan's work from Bo and Sons and Sayup. So dressing well is possible in Asia. There's honestly no excuse to not do otherwise. Okay, so I believe it's the Q&A session, yeah?
Yes, it is. Thank you so much, Mr. Liu. That was a really informative session. And now, of course, as we mentioned, the Q&A session. So ladies and gentlemen, please leave your questions in the chat box and Mr. Liu will answer your questions. Mr. Liu, I have a few questions actually, so be prepared. Now, the first one is, what does black tie actually mean?
We've seen these examples of, I went to a black tie event where people literally wore a black color tie and thought that's what it meant. No, black tie is actually a form of dressing, a sort of formal dressing in which there are pretty strict dress codes. For example, you have to have a tuxedo with a silk satin lapel and a black bow tie. It's not a black tie, a black bow tie, okay? So there are a lot of rules over there, and it's quite hard to highlight everything in one shot. I just want you guys to know that with black tie, it's not just wearing a black tie there. There's more to black tie. So do go Google what is a black tie event and what to wear to a black tie event.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Leo. Now, the next question, how much does it usually cost for a custom-made shirt?
Okay, the range of prices is honestly really quite high for custom-made stuff. So you could go for as low as, I've seen shirts going for $80. I wouldn't personally recommend it. I think somewhere around the 300 to 400 range would be reasonable. But that's honestly quite steep because, as I said, you're going for something custom. So it really depends on your budget. There's a lot of levels everywhere. I'm sure you guys have seen the adverts for Ox-White. I haven't tried them personally. I've heard good things, and they're selling it quite cheap. But as to the material and all of that, well, you get what you pay for.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Leo. Now, the next question, and I think this question is quite close to me. Now, I've seen a lot of people wearing ties with the narrow part longer than the wide part. So is it appropriate? Is it an appropriate fashion trend to wear it like this?
It's less of a fashion trend, I would say, and more, and this is where the entire style versus fashion thing comes into play. This is more of a style statement because sometimes when you tie your tie, the narrow end of your tie is just too long and you have to find some way to deal with it. Some people let it out, some people like to tuck it in. Either way is fine, but in a professional setting, I would recommend that you tuck it in, or either tuck it in your shirt, tuck in your trousers, or perhaps even use a tie clip to keep it in check. But this is more of a style and not a fashion trend. It stems from necessity.
Now, Mr. Leo, another question. Where can you get proper attires in Ipoh? And is it pricey?
Proper attire in Ipoh, okay, as with most things, you can get some at Yikfeng. Of course, you can contact some, there are quite a lot of tailors here, even me myself here at Sayap. There are some tailors working independently at Bo & Sons. So you can contact them as well. As to the price, as I said, with custom made things, you have quite a lot of prices. For example, even in one single tailor shop here at Sayap, one suit ranges from 2,100, and the sky's the limit. We can go all the way to 18,000, 20,000+. We have one jacket on display right now. It costs 25,000. So I would say the minimum you do need for a bespoke jacket or so-called proper attire, in terms of custom made anyways, would be 1,500, I would say. It's a nice starting point. And as to ready to wear, proper ready to wear in Ipoh, I would say it's quite hard to find. You can go search for G2000 and Uniqlo. Uniqlo has good stuff, but you'll be a little bit more hard pressed to find stuff like that.
All right, Mr. Leo. Now, there are a lot more questions. Now, how to shop for clothes without trying it on?
That is when you have to know your own measurements. For example, I'm a tailor, of course. That's why I know a little bit more about my own measurements. But if you generally like to buy stuff online, you should know your own measurements. For example, my shoulder is 18. Okay, my chest 41. So if you have this in mind, and you know how things should fit you in general, it's a lot easier to shop for stuff online because most shops actually have a size chart which you can refer to.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liu. Another question. Can I wear patterned socks with a suit?
Yes, you can, but again, simplicity is key here. Okay, what would be a casual sock? Something with cartoons on it, something pretty flashy, perhaps even in a bright color that's honestly not very suitable. But I don't see anything wrong with wearing a navy sock with slight micro patterns there, perhaps a red shadow pattern over there. I think that's completely fine. I think that's completely fine. You can go with that. So it really depends.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liu. Now, another question, and this, I believe, you and I, we are quite familiar with this question. Is it true that we should never button the lowest button on a suit? I believe this triggers us quite a lot, doesn't it?
Okay, the way most suits are made nowadays is you have this pattern here. It's a sort of, you see this sort of inverted, inverted triangle and a triangle over here. So when you button the lower button of a jacket, you're pulling the jacket away from what it should be. If I can just show you a picture. Okay, you can see over here that the quarters here are open, yes, and it's meant to be open that way. So if you button this lower button, it's going to pull the entire jacket out of form, and you cannot get that nice straight line that you're going for. So yes, don't button your lower button, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liu. There are some more questions. So, in Malaysia, baju kurung or kebaya is also used as an office formal attire. So what is your opinion on the appropriate pattern, color, or style for baju kurung or kebaya?
Now, for baju kurung and for kebaya, I would say go with something. Now, as I said, it really depends on office culture. I've worked in some offices before where if you wear something floral, it's completely fine. But then if you want to look professional, it's best to find something with smaller patterns or perhaps more discrete patterns. Or perhaps more discrete patterns, but there's only so much you can go, because if you're talking about traditional clothing, there is a set limit to traditional clothing as well. So I would say go for a smaller pattern, okay? And for the style-wise, generally, I don't see much limits there as long as you're staying within the traditional context. And as for the color, it really depends on the office culture. If you see your boss wearing something really bright, well, in that case, it's pretty much a green light, or perhaps you could just do the appropriate thing, ask human resource or ask your boss. Don't take anything.
Oh, so sorry.
No worries.
All right. Also, there are two more questions. What are the difference with the clothes custom made and the ones in Padini?
Okay. I believe I explained this previously in the ready-to-wear section, where ready-to-wear clothes are made for average body shapes. The thing is, there's no average body shape. They are all assuming that one person is perfect. No one is perfect. Okay, I've met models. I've fitted out models before, and yet even with models, professional models, we can tell imperfections in their bodies. It's just that they're a little bit less. Okay, and a lot of people don't have a model body, so of course, custom wear it should be the way to go. It is pricey though. That's why most people revert to ready to wear, which is completely fine, by the way. But with custom, you get a much better fit. You really get much better fit, because it's not just about the size in your chest, waist, hip, those measurements. No, it's about posture. how the cloth bends to you, iron work, so on and so forth. There's a lot more that goes into bespoke or custom wear than the most laymen know about. So that's actually a pretty good question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liu. Now, the last question. What is the difference between a jacket and a tuxedo?
Okay, this is actually quite common question. Now, I'll just put in extra examples in there. Okay, jacket. I'm sure you've heard of these before. Jacket, tuxedo, blazer, sport coat, suit. They all mean different things. With a jacket, now a jacket is part of a tuxedo. A tuxedo is not part of a jacket. A tuxedo is a full outfit. Okay, a tuxedo is a full outfit. So a jacket is just the jacket part. For example, this is the jacket of a suit. For example, a jacket of a tuxedo would have silk satin lapels, shiny lapels, and I'm sure you've seen those before. Okay, and most people mistake a jacket for a suit. Okay, a suit is when you have the jacket and the trousers made in the same material. Okay, and a sports jacket, okay, it's in the name. It's literally a jacket meant for sportier purposes in the older days. Okay, a blazer, it's also just the jacket. It's not a full outfit, but a tuxedo, a black tie attire, or a suit would be the full outfit. So it's two completely different things, a jacket and a tuxedo.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liu. If you don't mind, there's just one more question. The last one, I presume. What do you recommend for students going to intern?
For students going to intern, as I said, it depends heavily on the office culture, but if you're interning there, you might want a job at that place. Even if you're just you're meeting people in relevant fields. How you put yourself out there is very important. I've seen interns come in dressed shabbily and say, oh, it's just for 3 months. Yes, but in those 3 months, people have already solidified their opinion on you. So dress as appropriately as possible. And as I've said before, following the fit guides and the color guides, if you follow that, you should be fine. Whether or not you wear a jacket, it really depends on whether the office culture requires a jacket. For example, okay, it varies very, very greatly. Okay, let's take my shop, for example, the tailor shop where I work at, for example. We wear suits every day. We wear a tie, we wear a shirt, so on and so forth. I'm sure you've passed by tailor shops where they just wear a t-shirt, slippers, and short pants. And then there's some in perhaps even more rural areas where they just wear singlet and boxer shorts. So boxers, perhaps not boxer shorts, boxers. So it really depends on the office on the office environment. And certain things really can't be taken into context. For example, if you're working in a medical environment, okay, certain things may not be suitable. For example, jewelry like rings and so on and so forth, especially for both men and women. Certain things might get in the way. For example, tie in some fields may be a hazard, I'm sure. So pay attention to these things. But on your first day, go in dressed as professionally as you can. But generally, you can skip the suit and you can skip the jacket until someone says otherwise.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. I think that's all the time we have for today for this Q&A session. So a big thank you to you, Mr. Liu. Thank you for being here with us, delivering this very informative webinar.
No problem. Very glad to be here to, help everyone going into the workforce soon.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, before you take a leave, I would like to proudly announce that there will be a slogan design contest throughout the competition, the debate competition. Now, this event is to celebrate the World Pharmacist Day on the 25th of September. Now, here are the details of the sub-event. Now, participants will be required to complete the sentence shown in the poster, which we will post, with as much creativity as they can. Now, you stand a chance to win cash prizes. And stay tuned to know how much there is. And now there are a few things to keep in mind as well, is that to ensure you get the best out of this event, and everyone has the same opportunity, you cannot write more than 30 words. You have to post it on Facebook and tag Alliance QIU Forum. It's QIUPHARM. And last but not least, you have to submit your entry to a link which will be posted in the chat box. And that is all for today. We hope you enjoy the online talk session once again. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your presence here with us. We will announce the results of the debate later at 9:45 p.m., followed by the balloting session at 9:50 p.m. You may take your leave. Thank you.